The fact that I didn't want you to get in the water because I was afraid of you swimming because I didn't know.
Because since you're scared of water doesn't mean I'm scared of water.
To today's vlog, where we dive into the powerful connection between perception, faith, and communication in parenting. As parents, our words, action, and even our fears shape how our children perceive the world and themselves. Imagine a parent who is afraid of water. They might unintentionally hold their children back from learning how to swim. Or parents stressed and overwhelmed who unknowingly teaches their children that making a mistake isn't okay. But how does faith help us refrain from these situations? Today we will explore how our beliefs can guide the words we speak and silence the message we send, shaping not just how we parent, but how our children grow in confidence.
When we're scared of stuff, you still make us do it. But when y'all scared of stuff, we can't do it.
In the first part of the lesson, we were asked to give a scenario. The scenario that I gave came from personal experiences. I'm afraid of water, and so I try to shelter my children from swimming, or if they do swim, I try to keep them in the shallow end. They were asked to go on a vacation with their great aunt over the summer, and she was going to teach them to swim. And so I sent her a text privately and just asking her how deep was the water, letting her know my kids don't know how to swim. And she basically sent me a motivational text, and I have one request for you. If you don't mind, this year we will overcome everything that the enemy tried to take from us. I will gladly watch them and teach them pool safety. By the time they leave, the kids will know how to float, when to call for help, and how to reach safety. This year I won't let my fears affect my family. Mama made me scared of water above my knees, so I was an adult before I would go into the deep end of the water. So I never stepped out in faith. Fear is not from God. Who should we fear? A few years ago, I had a vision that changed me profoundly. The message made me stop playing it safe on everything. If it didn't look reasonable on paper, I didn't act. By not acting, I stayed in the shallow end of my blessing, in Christ, in my family, in finances, and in my relationships. The vision pushed me out of my comfort zone. We can't always stay in the shallow end. We need to step out into the deep, and without taking our eyes off of God's purpose in life. What if their lesson is in the deep end? What if their blessing is in the deep end? What if they learn how to swim in the deep end? What if they find God's purpose for them in the deep end? Just saying, love you. So for any parent who may be playing it safe in the shallow end, I just want to encourage or motivate you to step out of the shallow end and get into the deep end through faith and perception, because that can shift your whole reality. And by playing it safe in the shallow end, you're also creating these generational cycles for your children to pass down to their children as well. And in order to break that cycle, someone has to be strong enough to step out of the shallow end and into the deep end. The book was published in 2012, but it basically discusses how a parent's emotional state and their past experiences can influence their parenting style. It touches on ideas that parents often project their fears into their children, which I discussed in the scenario. But discussed in the scenario how oftentimes as parents we become stressed and overwhelmed with daily life and tasks that we sometimes focus more on just surviving through life rather than thriving and watching our children grow. And so that's something I struggle with as well. When I had my children very young, I focused more on making sure the house was clean, making sure, the kids had everything they need, everything they wanted, rather than taking time in those moments to actually enjoy my children growing up. So that's something else that the book discusses, how we oftentimes take for granted our children at the stages that they're at now. And so when they're older, we look back and it's a lot of, I wish I would have done this, or I wish I would have done that. And so now with my kids being the ages that they are, I'm able to look back and understand that I could have done things a little better. It was okay if I went to bed and didn't mop the house that night, or it's okay if I went to sleep and they had clothes that needed to be folded, because I do those things every day anyway. But what I can't get back is when my kids were small, my anxiety and me becoming overwhelmed with everyday life, I was robbed of that. So my advice to any parent who's dealing with that anxiety or being overwhelmed, that you can always go back and wash the clothes. They're gonna outgrow the clothes. The house will get mopped. The laundry will get done, the dinner will get cooked, the dishes will be put away. But as time is steady progressing, you won't get that time back with your children. So just learn to live in the right now and let tomorrow take care of itself. And remember that your perception can change your atmosphere.
Thank you for joining me today as we explored how our perception, faith, and both verbal and nonverbal communication can shape our parenting. Remember, the message we send, whether through words or actions, leave a lasting impact on how our children see themselves and the world around them. By grounding ourselves in faith, we can offer guidance that fosters growth, confidence, and resilience in our children. Let's continue to be mindful of what we communicate, trusting that with intention and grace, we can raise the next generation to thrive.
Get out of the shallow end and go to the deep end.